Climate change is often seen as a story of heat, melting glaciers, scorching summers, and rising seas. These images dominate our understanding, painting a picture of a world getting hotter and drier, but the reality is far more complex and nuanced than just rising temperatures. The Earth's climate is an intricate system where a change in one part can trigger unexpected reactions elsewhere. It's a delicate balance, a web of interactions that can be easily disrupted. One of the most dramatic examples of this complexity is the polar vortex, a swirling mass of frigid air over the North Pole, a phenomenon that has fascinated scientists for decades. The polar vortex isn't new, it's always been there, acting as a gatekeeper that keeps Arctic cold locked away, maintaining a stable climate in the northern hemisphere. For centuries, this atmospheric fence was strong and reliable, a constant in an ever-changing world. But now scientists are alarmed. The vortex is weakening, becoming less stable and more unpredictable, a sign of the changing climate. Instead of spinning tightly, it wobbles and stretches, letting lobes of Arctic air plunge southward, affecting weather patterns far beyond its usual reach. These cold snaps make headlines, bringing record lows to North America, Europe, and Asia, regions unaccustomed to such frigid conditions. Paradoxically, the warming Arctic is destabilizing the vortex, making extreme cold more likely in unexpected places, a twist in the tale of global warming. This is a climate feedback loop, warming in one region causing chaos in another, a chain reaction that underscores the interconnectedness of our planet. Understanding the polar vortex is now essential for preparing for a future of more extreme, volatile weather, a future that demands our attention and action. The icy breath of the Arctic is no longer staying put, reaching out to touch lives far from its frozen home. As we look to 2030, the consequences of this instability are becoming impossible to ignore, a call to action for all of us. The story of the polar vortex is a warning. Our climate system is more interconnected and fragile than we ever imagined, a reminder of the delicate balance we must strive to maintain. To truly grasp what the future holds for our weather, we first need to understand the mechanics of the polar vortex, one of the most powerful forces shaping our climate. The poles receive far less sunlight than the equator, especially during winter months. This creates a dramatic temperature gradient, a difference that acts as the engine driving global weather patterns and atmospheric circulation. This temperature difference, combined with the constant rotation of the Earth, forms a fast-flowing river of air high above us, the polar night jet stream, located in the stratosphere circling the polar regions. The jet stream acts like a barrier, containing a vast pool of frigid air known as the polar vortex, keeping it locked over the Arctic. During the long, sunless Arctic winter, this air becomes intensely cold, and the jet stream's strength keeps it bottled up, preventing it from spilling south. When the jet stream is strong and stable, winters in the mid-latitudes, where most of us live, tend to be mild, predictable, and relatively uneventful. But the polar vortex isn't just a single swirling mass. It actually exists in two layers of our atmosphere, the troposphere, where our weather happens, and the stratosphere, which sits above it. The stratospheric vortex is much larger and more powerful than its tropospheric counterpart. Disruptions here can have dramatic effects, often triggering major cold outbreaks that reach far beyond the Arctic. Sometimes, sudden stratospheric warming events can rapidly weaken or even split the vortex apart, allowing frigid Arctic air to escape and surge southward. When this happens, the jet stream loses its stability and begins to meander in a wavy, unpredictable path, bringing extreme cold and heavy snow to places that rarely experience such conditions. So when we hear about the polar vortex visiting, it's really a sign that the atmospheric systems that once kept it contained have broken down, allowing chaos to spill into our daily weather. The result? Winters that are not only less predictable, but also far more extreme and dangerous than what we're used to. The polar vortex is no longer just a scientific curiosity. It's a powerful force that's actively reshaping our weather, our cities, and the way we prepare for winter. The polar vortex's stability depends on a sharp temperature difference between the Arctic and the equator. This invisible boundary acts like a fence, keeping frigid air locked in the far north and maintaining a balance in our planet's climate. But the Arctic is warming more than twice as fast as the rest of the planet, a process called Arctic amplification. This rapid warming is melting sea ice and changing the very nature of the region. As the temperature gap between the Arctic and the equator shrinks, the jet stream that circles the pole slows down and weakens. This once strong current of air is now more vulnerable to disruption. As sea ice melts, darker ocean water absorbs more heat from the sun, further accelerating the warming cycle and making the Arctic even more unstable. The result is a jet stream that becomes wavier and slower, allowing cold Arctic air to spill southward and trapping weather systems in place for longer periods. Storms, heat waves, and cold snaps can now linger for weeks, causing record-breaking extremes and disrupting daily life for millions of people. The rhythm of our weather is being rewritten by changes at the top of the world, with the Arctic acting as a new driver of global weather patterns. Scientists are still debating the exact mechanisms behind these changes, but the trend is clear. Displaced polar vortex events are becoming more frequent as the Arctic continues to warm. The old rules of weather no longer apply, and what once seemed predictable is now uncertain. The atmospheric fence that once protected us is breaking down, leaving us more exposed to extreme and unpredictable weather. The consequences of these changes are being felt thousands of miles away, affecting communities and ecosystems far beyond the Arctic. We're entering a new era, one where the Arctic's growing instability shapes weather everywhere, from the tropics to the temperate zones. The evidence is mounting. Our climate system is shifting before our eyes, and the Arctic's weakening fence is at the heart of this transformation. By 2030, Arctic amplification will likely accelerate, shrinking the temperature contrast even further. The polar vortex will become more prone to disruption, making wild swings between mild spells and brutal cold more common. Sudden stratospheric warming events, once rare, could become almost annual, each triggering major cold outbreaks. The idea of a normal winter will fade, replaced by a season of extremes. Weather forecasting will grow more challenging, with greater uncertainty for governments, industries, and families. The paradox of a warming planet delivering more intense cold will become a lived reality. The stable Arctic will be a memory. In its place, a restless polar region lashing out unpredictably. Winter's future isn't disappearance, it's transformation. A destabilized polar vortex won't just mean colder winters, it will reshape weather worldwide. A wavier jet stream alters the path and speed of weather systems, affecting all seasons. Extreme cold in one region can mean drought or heat in another, creating a patchwork of weather winners and losers. For example, a cold snap in New York might coincide with drought and fire risk in California, or winter rain in Alaska. The same patterns can steer powerful storms toward Europe or create persistent drought in the Mediterranean. Even ocean currents may shift with unknown long-term consequences. The polar vortex's instability is a global story, one with far-reaching impacts. By 2030, a disrupted polar vortex could extend winter deep into spring, upending agriculture. A late freeze after early warmth can devastate crops, driving up food prices and threatening supply chains. Farmers will struggle with unpredictable seasons, delayed planting, and reduced yields. Infrastructure, roads, bridges, power grids will face new strains from longer, harsher winters. Energy demand will spike, risking blackouts and higher costs for families. Ecosystems will suffer too. Mismatched timing for plant blooms, animal migrations, and pollinators can ripple through the food web. The rhythm of the seasons is breaking down. Our systems, natural and human, are built for stability, not chaos. The cost of an unstable winter will be felt everywhere, from grocery stores to city streets. The world must adapt to a new seasonal reality. The true cost of a volatile polar vortex is measured in human lives and well-being. Prolonged cold snaps threaten the most vulnerable, elderly, children, the sick, and the homeless. Health systems will face new winter emergencies, from hypothermia to energy poverty. Economic strain will hit governments, businesses, and families alike. Higher heating bills, disrupted supply chains, and rising food prices. The psychological toll, climate anxiety, uncertainty, and community trauma will grow as weather becomes less predictable. Social and political tensions may rise, as some regions and groups suffer more than others. Debates over who pays for adaptation and recovery will intensify. Migration from hard-hit areas could reshape communities. The human cost is about more than dollars. It's about health, stability, and justice in a world under stress. The shifting polar vortex is a test of our resilience and compassion. Can we fix the polar vortex? There's no quick technological fix, no way to directly repair the jet stream. The only real solution is to address the root cause: rapid Arctic warming driven by greenhouse gas emissions. Cutting carbon emissions, shifting to renewables, and restoring natural carbon sinks are essential steps. But even with immediate action, the climate's inertia means the Arctic will keep warming for decades. Mending the atmospheric fence is a long-term project, benefiting future generations more than ourselves. In the meantime, adaptation is crucial. Upgrading infrastructure, building resilient food systems, and protecting the vulnerable. Mitigation and adaptation must go hand in hand. We must slow climate change while learning to live with the volatility we've already set in motion. The challenge is generational, requiring sustained commitment and innovation. Our response will shape the future of winter and our civilization. The polar vortex's story is a warning from the Anthropocene. We are now altering the planet's fundamental systems. By 2030, a wobbling vortex spilling Arctic cold will be a lived reality, not just a scientific theory. Winters will be wilder, less predictable, and marked by extremes. Understanding these changes is the first step. Climate literacy is essential for everyone. We must accelerate emissions cuts and build resilience, requiring global cooperation and local action. The chilling predictions for the polar vortex are not doom, they're a call to action. The Earth is becoming more restless. We must shift from exploitation to stewardship. Our future depends on listening to these warnings and responding with courage and responsibility. The fate of our winters and our civilization rests on what we do next. The time to act is now.